Hi, and welcome to Tony Time. Nice to have you back. And we have a wonderful, wonderful lady here. She is a mover and a shaker. I met her for the first time probably about a month ago, Tammy Ackerman. And she is moving Biddeford around and bringing people out in the open doing art and offering classes and workshops. So let me introduce Tammy to you. Tammy, welcome to Tony Time.
Thank you, Tony. It's nice to be here.
Well, I did an art walk with Tammy about 3 weeks ago. It was really cold, really, really cold.
Very cold.
But it was so much fun. It was like 2 hours. And you took us into restaurants, you took us into the mills. Kind of describe the art walk for us.
Well, the Art Walk, Biddeford Art Walk, which is now expanding to Saco, is a monthly event every last Friday of the month. And it's a group of venues, galleries, and other venues that get together and show art, local artists, each month. And they, revolve shows, so they have somebody different each month. And they just participate in a community event where they get people out to come out and see what's going on and discover the new venues and support the local art scene. So.
It's really wonderful. When we went into the mill, I didn't realize there were so many art galleries in the mill.
Well, there's art studios.
Art studios.
There's one gallery, the Kamara Gallery, and she's a little on the risque side of things. She's erotic art, so there's adult content in her gallery, but she does a nice job with it, And so if it's not your taste, you don't want to take small children in there necessarily, but she's doing a great job, and she's very well connected in the New York art scene and sort of alternative art. And then there's 3 or 4 studios that open their doors on Art Walk night. Nora Tryon does painting. Cheryl Litchwell is a sculptor and does these sort of anthropomorphic kind of human-animal sculptures that are both creepy and interesting.
I remember seeing that. Yeah,
and she's very talented.
She's very talented, yeah.
She has a background in set design and theater, and so you can see that through her art. You can imagine one of her pieces being really big on stage somewhere, and she's done that kind of work.
I remember when you go into her studio, there's a fish with a harlequin face.
Right.
And then the hands. That, to me, was so clever.
Yeah.
So out-of-the-box thinking.
Definitely.
It just...
She's not your mainstream artist.
No, she's not.
She's not doing, deer and animals that you expect to see, but she's doing these crazy things that have...
She'd be great in New York. There's a place called Windows. And they would eat her up.
Well, I'd love that connection, actually, because she's struggling here. It's hard. I mean, it's hard for someone like her doing these really creative, unique things to find a market in Maine. And I keep pushing her toward the gallery and, museum kind of setting because I think it's more appropriate for her work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You need more people walking in and viewing her work. And she does talk about it quite a bit.
She does. She's very articulate. Yeah.
So she's very good.
Yeah.
Now, I know that Engine, which is your art gallery, was nominated for Best Studio.
Best Gallery.
Best Gallery for 2013 in the Phoenix.
Right.
So that's a great honor. And Tammy, she's a very interesting woman because her favorite color is orange. I wear black all the time. I never met anyone who had a favorite color of orange. She has a scholarship in art and softball.
Way back, previous life. But.
Oh, okay, but where did you grow up at, Tammy? I mean, who's the woman here sitting with me that could do all this?
Oh, it's all a facade, right?
Smoke and mirrors.
This is my public persona and then who I really am. I grew up in South Dakota. I'm a Plains girl, a Plains woman. And I grew up in a very sports-oriented community.
Only child, or?
Midwest. No, I have an older brother, which is probably part of the reason. He was always involved in sports. And so I grew up playing everything that the boys did. I was out there with the hockey sticks on the frozen river. I was totally a tomboy. I'm still a tomboy. Totally. I'll never lose that. But yeah, I was playing with the guys, playing tackle football. And,
really?
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah. I could run fast, so they all wanted me on their team for football and ice send and all those games, and Yeah, so I grew up in the plains in a small town about the size of Biddeford, 25,000 or so. Agricultural community, flat as a pancake terrain. Everything was, quarter-mile grid system, unlike New England, which is cow paths, And I grew up next to a junkyard. So we had complete reign, complete freedom to go out and just be kids, which is, it's not like it is today, when there's a lot of structure and supervision and stuff. So Mom pretty much said, see you at dinner time.
And you could do that then.
Don't get killed,
Yeah.
in essence. And, so we would go build forts and create weird sculptures and things in the junkyard and,
And
yeah.
and you weren't sitting home
Never. I was
with the
outside
video
all day.
games
Never.
and all that, which the kids today do all the time.
Yeah, it's a
You were
different
being
culture.
creative. You were out being creative.
It's a different culture of creativity now. I think there's still creativity in what kids can do with that kind of environment, but it's less social.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Now, junkyard, I have a fond memory of junkyards. It sounds very odd. But I lived in Chicago for a short time, and a photographer, a dear friend of mine, was doing a photo shoot for Turtle Wax, and he needed a red bucket seat. So my dear friend and I, Margaret and I, we went to a junkyard for him. And we're climbing around and we're looking for a red bucket seat. And we found it. We definitely found it. It wasn't until we got back to the car that I dropped the car keys within the grate in the junkyard.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was a whole, we were there a lot longer. But it was so much fun. Just walking around, and you could be creative. You could build things.
Wasn't there a show called American Pickers or something like that?
Yes.
It's about that, what can you salvage out of the junk?
Oh, yeah, I love that show because they go across country. They go to places where people have old Coca-Cola signs. They have old things that we would, howdy doody. You're too young for that, but
Barely.
barely. Yeah, I mean, people are bringing that stuff back. So, I mean, now, how long did you live?
Oh, ooh,
In
that's,
your-
not sure I want to divulge that information. But
Yeah, but when did you move out? I mean,
well,
what-
my previous life, which I always refer to as my previous life in South Dakota, I was there until I was 29, which is kind of, I think about it, frightening, in that I didn't get motivated to leave sooner. And I had a set of circumstances which sort of propelled me out of South Dakota to a new area. And at that time, I sort of had a pick, for the most part, where I could go. But I hadn't traveled very much. I mean, it was really a previous life, like very insular. My family didn't travel very much, so I didn't have a lot of exposure to other parts of the country. I mean, I was really kind of a hillbilly, and so I had this opportunity to leave, and I had this preconceived notion that the East was overcrowded and full of, it's just like too crowded. My mom had me, thinking that, oh God, you don't want to go East. Too many people out there. North, of course, equated to more cold. The South, I just didn't have a conception of the South at all. And so I was like, well, I like the West. I like mountains, I'm going to go West. And my intention was to go to San Francisco, but again, my mother kind of freaked me out a little bit and said, oh, you're a small town girl, you can't go right into the big city, and so I stopped short in Reno, Nevada. And I lived there for 10 years.
Reno's great.
Reno is interesting,
Yeah.
It kind of has a reputation of seedy,
Yeah.
and, there's the Reno 911 show, which isn't entirely true. Pieces of it maybe, but, Reno is a great community because you had the mountains, you had the desert, this varied terrain, and
You're very
yeah.
close to Las Vegas.
Very close to actually about 8 hours from Las Vegas.
Okay, yeah. not
Closer
that-
to San Francisco, so like
right.
3-hour car drive to San Francisco and the coast, which I loved, and so I had a chance to travel around a little bit, and see some new environments. And I met a good creative group of people in Reno that opened my eyes to what like the arts in the community really sort of meant, and I got involved with that.
So would you say you just followed your gut? You followed your feelings?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Without too much information, just feels like I should go west, I'm going to go west.
That's great because I really, really encourage people when you have a feeling and it says go west,
Yeah.
don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And, you know, parents can say, oh my God, it's a big city. They've never been there, but it's
Right.
what they imagine for you.
Yeah. Well, it's always been interesting with my mom and I. We're very much alike, but we're very different. Um, you know, I love my mom to death, but she sort of lets fear kind of rule the decisions that she makes in her life and has made, and I don't blame her for that, but I'm not that, you know, and so I have this sort of like, what the heck, you know, I'm just, how bad can it be,
How
you
bad
know,
can it
let's
be?
just try this and see what happens, you know, and I guess if that, it's kind of an entrepreneurial nature in a way, it's sort of a, not avoiding, but not paying too much attention to the risk and just trying some things, you know.
Sometimes too much information is not good.
Right, right. Yeah.
Sometimes you're better off not knowing everything about something,
Yeah.
because then you'll walk right into it and you'll act and react to your personality and what is going on. Yeah. Parents did that. I mean, they lived, I believe, at that, during your younger days, in fear-based more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, all this stuff, the Cold War, you know, all that psychological stuff that, you know, my mom had to live through, and, you know, but that's not me, and thank goodness, because I feel like I'm much more adventurous. I've traveled to, oh God, Africa, Europe quite extensively.
What took you to those places? What took you to Africa?
An invitation from a young gentleman that this is not me at all, but he was a professional hunter, and I met him in Reno, and he said, "Yeah, you should come to Africa and check it out. I'll show you what it's all about." And you know, I'm not a big advocate. I'm not an advocate of professional game hunting by any means, but I thought, okay, well, this is an experience. You know, I may not agree with the stuff, but I'm going to take that invitation and check it out. And it was bizarre. I mean, it was one of the most bizarre experiences of my life. A great experience, but something that I'll never forget, you know, flying into Africa and landing in this town in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, and gigantic city, and what that culture shock, I mean, it was really a culture shock for me, you know, but an eye-opener, definitely. And, you know, I got to go out into the bush, you know, and see what wild game hunting in Africa was all about, and would never do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, I learned a lot and got to experience that, and, you know, so adventurous things like that. I kind of did that on a spur of like a very big whim, you know. It's like, well, I guess I'll go, you know. Yeah,
But all of these things were, I mean, you were like a sponge. It was feeding you.
definitely. Yeah.
Feeding you with where you were going to go next, I think. So once you came back to Reno after Africa,
It's all these, my current partner is not going to like this statement, but it's usually been men that have led me to these various places. And so I was in a relationship back there, and he had grown up in New England, and um, we were ready to move out of Reno because Reno is a lot of California influence coming in, driving up housing prices, and this is like pre-crash, you know, and I had a house, and I was like, I need to sell my house now before, you know, something bad happens, and kind of had that sense that, you know, the bubble was going to pop at some point. And so luckily I got out of that, and you know, wanted to find a new community. And he and I looked around. We bought a Eurovan and did what a lot of kids do right out of college, their backpacking trip, you know, to Europe. We did the circumnavigation of the United States. So got in the van and just went to all these different towns, mostly around the perimeter of the United States. And we had bought a book called The 100 Best Art Towns in the United States. And so we were paging through that and like, okay, we have to stop in Burlington, Vermont, you know, and check it out. And so we did that all the way around until the van started having problems in New Mexico, and we lost our brakes or something. I don't know. Something bad was happening. We just had to hightail it back. So we never got to do kind of the lower California up the coast piece, but I had already done that anyway. So we had kind of a good idea of different communities, and when we drove through Maine, we drove through Biddeford, and I saw the mills, and I was just fascinated by, you know, this industrial culture, you know, and these wonderful architectural monuments to our industrial heritage, and I fell in love with Main Street. So when we started looking for property to buy, a new place to buy, I found a building on Alfred Street in Biddeford, which didn't work out, but then I found a second one, which is where I am now, and I bought that little building and renovated it and started being part of the community.
oh, it's so wonderful. And that's how you created Engine.
Well, that was The precursor
The
to
precursor,
Engine. Yeah, I
okay.
had a small gallery in my building called Franklin Street Art Space, and I started doing shows and started building a following, and realized quickly that the for-profit commercial art gallery model is a really challenging one if you're not on a highly visible street in a small town in Maine. And so I quickly realized that this is not a lucrative endeavor. It wasn't supposed to be. It was sort of a passion, but
Yeah.
still I couldn't afford to continue on in that mode. So I closed that. We had started Art Walk at that time, and so there were various venues participating in Art Walk. And then I started coordinating Art Walk and took it to the mill, to the North Stand Mill, and started doing shows in the hallway there. And then another arts organization, River Tree Arts in Kennebunk, started being interested in being in Biddeford. And so they had a little studio set up in the mill, which I thought was great. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to get an arts organization in Biddeford that can do cool things, And then the crash happened, and they pulled back into their community and said, we need to focus on our immediate community and not try to be too broad in our mission. So I saw an opening there, an opportunity to do that, to start an arts organization that's a nonprofit model that would sort of fill that void and provide programming for the community. So that's how Engine got started back in about 2009.
That is amazing.
And here we are now in 2013. It seems
And look
like,
at you. Look at what you've accomplished. You've accomplished
well, it's
a
never
lot,
enough,
Tammy.
in my opinion.
Well, no, you should never be happy.
Yeah, right. I'm not.
No,
you
no,
know.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I have never learned where once you're comfortable and once you're happy, that's it.
You're done.
You're done. You're
Right.
done. You're done. So you're never comfortable and you should never be happy.
Right. Never complacent.
Never complacent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look at what you're doing for Main Street, Biddeford. I mean, when I walked in there, that's a great space.
It is a lovely space, and thanks to Caleb Johnson and David Flood for renovating that building. The old Potter's Furniture building that many people know locally is now a thriving, 100% full creative hub, really.
And it takes people to think out of the box. It takes people to say, okay, we're going to do this. It's the old saying, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
And that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're living by that.
I mean, if you went out and did a market research study, or asked people, do you think a gallery is a smart move, to put on Main Street in Biddeford, they probably would say no.
They would absolutely
Right.
say no. I mean, when people say you need a business plan, with my company, I never did a business plan. It was all up here.
Right.
And it was being a branch instead of the tree. I mean, that's how I kind of do it. Where, okay, the wind's going to blow and I'm going to go over here because I'm supposed to go over here.
Right.
And things start to happen, but it is. You build it, they will come.
Yeah, you have a gut instinct or a sense
Yes,
of what
you
the
do.
right direction is. And, in a short time, many people that are watching probably don't know that in a short time, Engine and Biddeford have become a common, what's the right word, a common mention when we talk about arts in Maine.
It is
And,
now.
and I really, that's a great thing, and so when the Maine Arts Commission talks about the arts in southern Maine, they talk about Engine and the work we're doing down here. And when there's creative economy discussions, at the state level, Engine gets talked about, and used as an example.
You should be so proud.
Very proud of that, and I don't take that for granted,
No,
at
no,
all.
no,
And
no.
it's not just been me. It's been a great collaborative effort of people that are supportive of the idea that arts can transform communities, and it's not a new thing. Lots of communities are doing it.
But it's the way you do it. It's the way you approach it. And you've approached it with no fear. Unlike your mother.
Publicly.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
we all go home.
Yeah.
And we all go, oh my God, what's going to happen? No, I'm not going to think that way.
Right.
But oh my God, what's going to happen?
Well, there's plenty of naysayers,
Oh, of course there are. Yeah.
and people that are, well, what good are the arts? What good is, a bunch of paintings on the wall in terms of economic development and stuff, but it's not, that's just a piece of it. It's the community.
It's the community coming together. It's the emotion of that art piece, that sculpture. Because I think what we're losing in today's world is emotion. The young kids and even older people now are so burnt out and so tired.
Right.
You walk into your gallery and you feel alive again.
Right. There's a lot of energy. A lot of energy when we have an opening night. For example, the next opening that we have is this coming Friday. The Rumpus is the name of our show.
Making noise.
A noisy clamor.
A noisy clamor.
Is a rumpus, so we came up with this idea of having a rumpus, you know, of around art, and opened it up to absolutely everybody, anybody, any age, any level of ability. And I think we probably got about 40 people that came in and dropped work off, and I'm hanging that this week, and we'll open it on Friday. From everything from needlepoint to sculpture, crazy sculpture, you know, and I'm excited for this show in particular because it brings lots of people in.
Yeah,
You know, they
yeah.
come in with their families and they get to meet artists, and other people from the community, and that's really, you know, I mean, I'm kind of an imposter. I'm using art. I'm just using art as a vehicle for community development. And I love art. I absolutely love art, and I'm a
But
big.
how else would you do it, really?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, events, you know, and
But for you,
food.
but for you,
For me, I
for
wouldn't do
you
it
to
any other
do
way.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because you know, I studied art in college, and I'm a graphic designer, and you know, I have a huge appreciation for the arts, and I want to advocate for the local artists, and you know, so it's definitely an integral part. It's ingrained in my blood.
Yeah. See, all of this, it's like a quilt. Your life is a quilt. It's patchwork of where you, I mean, you didn't leave home until you were 29.
Right.
But look at what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a really fun trajectory, nerve-wracking as hell. I mean, pardon my French, but you know, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
the
not easy.
whole sort of entrepreneurial thing where you're not quite sure, you know, what's going to happen next is a little, it's.
But you live off that.
I thrive on it. I love
thrive
it. I
on
love
it.
it.
You
I mean, I
thrive
love
on it.
meeting you. I love that tour that we did with the Art Walk group, you know, because it's a chance for me to be able to say, hey, look at this. Did you know about that? You know, look at this little wood shop back here. You know, here's how you get to them. Here's the music venue, the Oak and the Axe. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
things that kind of go under the radar, you know, are now being exposed and in a good way.
And it needs to be because Biddeford is a wonderful little town. Wonderful. And I mean, the people, I have found moving here because I lived in Manhattan for 20 years, well, 24 years. The community, and I've talked about this before, is amazing. People come together here.
There's some really interesting,
Like
talented,
people.
good
Yeah.
people. Yeah, definitely.
Like people come together here. And as a force, you're very strong, and you come with what you've learned from your travels. And that's what you have really put together here, which was very needed. I moved up here in 2006. And as the market was going to crash, and I sold my apartments and said, that's it. But I've loved it up here for years.
Yeah.
And I needed to be here, to be creative, to do what I'm doing today.
Well, I think there's something to be said about a small community, a small town.
Absolutely.
Not, I mean, the size of the town, you know, and I grew up in a small town, and Reno was bigger, you know, and so it had a different, I didn't feel like I could be much of a force there. I could be involved, but it already had sort of its complexion, you know, and the people that were doing certain things, and it was harder to make an impact there. A smaller town is more scalable, you know, in that you can come in, and if you really have a great idea, you can take it in front of the mayor, you can take it in front of the city council, you can get involved and make an impact that's felt, and not just a little blip, but actually a big impact. And I feel like that's what we've been doing with Engine, you know, is people are starting to notice, you know, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's impacting.
And they are, and they definitely are talking about it. And speaking of our mayor, I mean, he's so open to new things in Biddeford, and hearing ideas that everybody's kind of working together now.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to explain to me Fab Lab
Fab Lab.
before we run out of time,
Okay,
because I know you have another appointment.
I do. I have to go to the Rennie's building and do a walkthrough with our contractors,
Oh.
which is, we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
But Fab Lab, it's called Fabulous Lab is the idea, and it's a concept that was developed by the Center for Bits and Atoms, Neil Gershenfeld, Dr. Gershenfeld, whom people might know, came up with this concept of creating a space that had certain tools, computers and 3D printers and laser cutters and things that you can create with, but creating an open access environment that allows people from all different walks of life and different levels of ability to come into this environment and create and innovate and think. And
So anybody could come in and do this?
they can. Yep. I mean, people need a little bit of training, to know how to use the tools, but that's like anything. I mean, you can't, you can just pick up a paintbrush and paint, but these are, tools that need a little bit of training. But the idea is to create a community atmosphere around the idea of innovation and creativity. And so that's what a Fab Lab really is. And so we are going to be kicking off one in our current space at 265 Main in the next, hopefully, month or two. And we're going to be developing programming. We'll have some open studio time where people can come in and just sort of work out things, with a little guidance.
Workshops. You're going to be having a lot of workshops.
We'll have some workshops. We don't have it all formalized yet or planned, but a tinkering lab for little kids. We've been working on this concept.
Oh, that'd be great.
Little kids can come in and learn how to use some tools and then just start inventing things, and building crazy things, and
to encourage that now is great.
Well, it is, and it's different from sort of the more formal corporate environment or the school environment where, there's a lot of structure. This is very unstructured, and there's the ability to fail. And that's very entrepreneurial in that many entrepreneurs, inventors, people that are creative try a billion different things before they get something that succeeds, and we want to foster that environment. Just try it, it might not work out. So what? Try it again. Try better.
So many people are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And they're afraid to try it again. And when you encourage them to try again, oh, you're doing so much for them.
And the idea for me, what I get stoked about this. This is my West Coast. I get stoked about this idea of, a kid from, Bacon Street or Center Street, working next to a kid from Thornton or, and I'm talking about class, equality here where, you can get these kids from different walks of life and different family situations and different socioeconomic environments together creating. And to me, I get really excited about that, and it opens doors,
It opens doors. They learn from each other.
Yeah. Yep.
They learn to talk about and learn about where the other people are coming from.
Equal playing field.
Equal playing, yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So.
Being an entrepreneur, I mean, I've been one my whole life. You've been one your whole life, basically.
That's most of it.
Most of it. And we're accustomed to saying, okay, throw it out there.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Right.
And now you also will be having summer camp.
We tried it last summer.
How did that work? What does that involve?
Well, it was more visual art. Last summer we did a 10-week program, and we didn't get the word out soon enough. I'm not a parent, and so, the whole parent schedule to me is a little hard to grasp. I learned that you have to get that stuff out like now, for summer camps. So we had some good kids that came through the program, but not nearly enough to support it. And so we're going to repackage that this summer and roll in the Fab Lab piece of it. And I think that'll attract more people. That'll
attract a lot of people, and especially if you can put it in some of the communities, like Kennebunkport and Biddeford Pool, and let people know it's there. Because the summer people coming in, they're not coming for a day or two. They're coming for a week, 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, the hard thing is that I haven't been able to figure out yet is that when they come, they want to be at the beach. How do you get them off the beach into the downtown? And that's
the hard part.
That's a challenge.
That's a challenge.
We're thinking about that.
That's a challenge, and I do think, I see a lot of the kids, after a couple days at the beach, they're kind of walking around going, okay, now what can I get into?
The museums, their popular phrase is that they pray for rain in the summer, because they want people to come inside, off the beach, So, summers we're figuring out what works and what doesn't work, but, trying different things and being adventurous about that, yeah.
Now also this orange thing, which is fascinating me.
My weird orange obsession.
Injun is kind of a reddish orange.
It's kind of, there's orange in there. Yeah,
right, there's orange.
Yeah, there's orange.
Before we started taping here, she told me she painted her building orange.
Yep, that was a funny thing. When we were painting it orange, it's completely a 3-story concrete block, cinder block building, and it's orange top to bottom. And we had some interesting comments, from the locals. I have a bar across the street from me, and, they'd come out and stand on the street and look at it like, what are you guys, you're crazy, but it was great because it really popped the building out. It's right next to George's Sandwich Shop, the building that I own and that I work in. But Engine is, it's got an orange theme. It's a really social color. And my mom painted our house orange when I was in probably 1st to 6th grade, we had an orange house that I lived in, a ranch style in South Dakota, and it's all orange. And then when we moved to the second house that my family owned, she painted the garage door orange. You know, so there's been this thread that's kind of stuck with me, and I didn't really consciously think about it.
And
I just like orange, you know.
and you're carrying it through your life.
Yeah.
It's a thread, but
It's
you're
a
carrying,
thread.
but you're carrying it through your life.
It's a very social color. Some people hate orange, some people love orange, but you can't deny that it has energy, and
It
that's
does have energy.
sort of the you know, the theme behind Engine is that we're creating energy, we're creating momentum, we're propelling the creative community.
I love that. I love that. So what is your goal here in the next few years? Where would you like to see all this?
Well, Engine in its current space is lovely. It's a lovely gallery space, and we're very happy there, but we had a building donated to us, the former Rennie's department store, which is called the O.H. Staples building. That's the name that's up on the frieze, I think, or the piece of the facade. And so it was a department store originally, and then I think it was Fishman's. Many people know it as Fishman's department store. And then it was the Rennie's department store until they vacated it about 8 years ago. And when we were looking for a space for Engine, we had talked to Mary Kate and Bob Rennie and just sort of pitched this idea, because I knew they were having a hard time filling it and selling it. And I thought, well, what if you donated the building, you know, to a nonprofit? And so they said, well, we'll think about it, and came back a month later and said, are you guys ready to take this building? And I was like, oh my God, you know, what have we gotten ourselves into? So we have this, you know, 18,000 square foot, 3-story historic building on Main Street that we're hoping to make our permanent home at some point in hopefully the near future. But we have to go through some fundraising, and, you know, everything needs to be done, from electrical to, you know, just absolutely everything. And
Okay, contractors out there who have a little bit of time on the weekends, Tammy needs you.
I have a building permit, you know, I just don't have the people behind it yet, and I will have. You know, I'm confident that we'll make this a community effort, and, you know, it's going to be a center for creativity and innovation, you know, not just an art center, because I think art pigeonholes a little bit too much. I want that creativity, so it can be design, it can be Fab Lab, it can be arts, it can be music, it can be performances, you know. So we're trying to create a real hub of activity, you know, creative activity there. So, you know, it'll be the so-and-so, you know, Center for Innovation, and if you want to put your name on it, you know, come talk to me. But that's the idea, is, you know, whatever the name might be, you know, someone that wants to be involved can have a real big part of this.
A big part of this.
Big part of it,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And going back to what you need contractors, you need people to come in there. And would you be up to having their name on the building?
Oh, and yeah, any level.
All right, guys, think about this. Think about this. You can have your name on the building.
Yeah.
That you were part of this. Look how your clients will just...
Yeah, I mean, we'll name everything in the building. We'll name the bathroom, you know, we'll name the kitchen, you know, and so yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea behind a project like this, is you get people engaged, you create ownership, and you create an anchor on Main Street that needs an anchor, you know, needs a creative, positive anchor that is bringing all kinds of people through the front door. You know, we're hoping to create a very open environment on the first floor, where we might have a garage door, you know, that we roll up in the summertime, and people can come in and out, you know, and make it lively. Feet on the street, that's what it's all about, is, you know, getting more feet on the street.
Feet on the street.
It benefits the little cafe next to us, the venues across the street from us, you know, and it creates that activity. So that's the grand plan.
All right, now that's like 24 hours a day of your life. Where is your life in all this?
Well, it's last year I honestly went through a month of being really burned out, and I needed to take a break, and so we closed for January and regrouped, and our board was deciding whether we would stay in our current space or not, and I felt it was really important to continue on with the programming while we renovate the building. So I have this kind of, you know, twofold effort right now of creating programming and renovating a historic building. So yeah, it occupies my mind most of the day, and that I wear a different hat of being a graphic designer in my day job.
To make money, to live.
To make a living, you know, and...
See, this is the amazing part, because we come from a world of, all right, this is what we want to do, this is our dream, but we also need to make money to pay our bills.
Right.
So we might be working 7 days a week, but we're accomplishing and we're going
Yeah.
to what we want.
I won't let go of the engine
No,
thing.
no.
I mean, that's my ultimate passion. You know, I want to see that this effort succeed. You know, it's going to succeed, but I want to see it really get to the point of where it is an asset for the community in a big way, and it creates a draw of people. You know, and I love graphic design. I love design in general, just as I love art. But I'm wanting to move my energies full time into this, you know, community development piece through the arts, and we'll see if I get there.
It's meant for you to do this because to have a building donated to you.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
This is all meant to be. This is meant, and follow your gut. Follow whatever feelings you have, and if you feel burnt out, take a day or two off, take a month off. But you keep going because this is meant to be, to have a building donated.
Yeah, and it's a big building, and it's a beautiful building.
You should feel so special and so
Yeah,
good
yeah,
about what you're doing.
I love it. You know,
I'm your
absolutely
biggest
love it.
fan.
Thank
I
you.
really am. But I know we have to cut this short.
Yeah.
It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
I have really enjoyed, and let's have you back. Let's do some photos and.
Maybe we can get you on site. I've been talking to the guys here, you know, about how to do on-location things. And
Oh, we'll do it.
we'll set you up with a little entourage and a camera crew, and you'll come into Engine, and we'll show you.
Oh, we'll
how-
come in with my leopard and black, and we'll just make this.
And your people, you can. Be
And my
like,
people,
Come
my
on,
people.
all right, go this way, and they just all follow you.
Steve, you're my people. You're my people. Tammy, it's just been so much fun with you, my dear. Really, really. And I want to thank you for spending time with Tony Time. We'll see you real soon again. Bye-bye.